Representative Ilhan Omar thought she was walking into a standard hearing, but she was about to face Benjamin Shapiro, an iPad loaded with 12 years of her own words, and the most devastating 43 minutes of her political career. Pro-atrocity Jewish students. These were the 3 words spoken into a megaphone by a sitting United States Congresswoman at Columbia University back in April of 2024. 3 nights later, hateful symbols appeared on Jewish dormitory doors at Columbia, at Cornell, and at NYU. The week quickly became the worst week of campus-targeted prejudice in 45 years. The Congresswoman who said those 3 words was Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. 26 minutes ago, a man named Benjamin Shapiro walked into hearing room 419 of the Dirksen Senate Office Building. He brought one iPad. On the iPad were 412 documented public statements made by the Congresswoman over 12 years. These were statements about Jewish individuals, about Israel, about American military veterans, and about a baby named Kfir Bibas. He brought no witnesses. He did not need any. Across the witness table, Shapiro looked at the Congresswoman over the iPad in his hand. His voice was quiet. +2 Congresswoman, 12 years, 6 clips, 5 entities, 11 days, 1 Bibas family. Hit that like button and subscribe, because in the next 43 minutes, you are going to watch a Jewish commentator from Burbank, California play Representative Ilhan Omar her own 12 years of public statements and force her to answer the only question that matters. Did you mean what you said +1? Let's go back 26 minutes, to the moment Ilhan Omar made the worst mistake any politician can make in front of a man with an iPad and a memory. She tried to play the victim. Representative Ilhan Omar wore a navy blazer over a white blouse. Her hijab was pinned with a small silver pin shaped like the state of Minnesota. The pin caught the light from the C-SPAN camera. She had been speaking for 3 minutes. The hearing was titled Targeted Prejudice in U.S. Foreign Policy and Member Conduct. It was being held in hearing room 419 of the Dirksen Senate Office Building. That room is the largest hearing room in the United States Senate. 5.4 million Americans were watching the hearing live. Omar was not done with her opening attack. +2, I find it concerning. She said that the Senate's expert witness on targeted prejudice today is the founder of the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is funded by hedge fund donors and natural gas executives. Mr. Shapiro is not a neutral expert. He is a paid commentator. His income depends on selling outrage to a conservative audience. He has been talking about me on his show for the past 5 years. He has called me a fraud, a hypocrite, a prejudiced individual, a threat to the United States. She paused for effect. The cable news instinct was on full display. I have received hundreds of severe threats. She continued, many of them traceable to listeners of his show. So before this committee asks Mr. Shapiro about my conduct, I would ask the committee to remember something. The conduct of paid commentators who have spent 5 years monetizing my existence is its own question. I would ask the committee to keep them separate. She sat back in the wings. Her communications director nodded. The communications director was a young woman named Imani Hassan. She had been with Omar since 2019. +4. What Omar did not know was this. The man across the witness table had spent the previous evening in a small office in Nashville. He had worked alone with one staff member. He had organized 412 documents on a single iPad. He had not brought lawyers. He had not brought speech notes. He had not brought a folder of papers. He had brought one iPad and one glass of water. The iPad sat on the witness table. Screen up. Across the aisle, Benjamin Shapiro did not respond. He sat down his glass of water. One single motion. He picked up the iPad. He tapped the screen once. The screen lit up. 5 seconds passed. Shapiro turned the microphone toward himself. His voice was fast, but not unkind. It was clinical. +2, Congresswoman, thank you. I will address all 6 points in your opening statement in order quickly because the committee's time is finite and the documented record is long. First, the Daily Wire's funding. The Daily Wire is funded by approximately 1 million paying subscribers. They pay $13 a month. That is public information. The hedge fund references in your statement come from early seed investors from 2015. The largest of those investors funded the company for 1 round. They have not been operationally involved in 7 years. Their total contribution to the Daily Wire was less than 4% of company revenue last year. The math is publicly available. Second, the severe threats you have received. I am sorry for those threats. I have publicly condemned every severe threat against any member of Congress, including you, on multiple occasions. Those condemnations are archived. They are searchable. Third, the framing that I am monetizing your existence. +3, he paused. He picked up the iPad. He held it up so the cameras could see. Then he spoke. Congresswoman, I want to address that one carefully because the framing implies a moral equivalence I do not believe exists. In 15 years of public commentary, I have never called for the United States to abandon its alliance with the State of Israel. I have never suggested that American support for any foreign country was, quote, all about the Benjamins, end quote. I have never stood at a college encampment and called Jewish students pro-atrocity. I have never voted on the floor of the United States Congress against a resolution that did one thing: condemn the people who harmed innocent infants. He let those 4 sentences sit for a moment. You have Congresswoman. He set the iPad down. And the difference between us is the difference between speech and law. Words have consequences for me. Votes have consequences for everyone. He paused. Today, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee asked me to walk through your documented record, your public statements about Jewish individuals, about Israel, about American military veterans, about the 7 million American Jewish citizens whose grandparents came to this country to escape exactly the medieval tropes you have repeated twice in the past 12 years. +3. He picked up the iPad again. The record begins on May 22, 2012, with one tweet, 83 characters about a country called Israel, and a verb called hypnotized. Shapiro tapped the iPad screen. The screen lit up with Omar's tweet from May 22, 2012. The camera zoomed in. Congresswoman Shapiro said, I am going to read your tweet word for word. He read slowly. The chamber listened. Quote, Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel. End quote. He set the iPad down. That tweet was posted on your verified Twitter account. You were 29 years old. You had a degree in international studies. You were running for political office in Minnesota. He paused. The word you used in that tweet, Congresswoman, the word hypnotized used in connection with Jewish people used to describe Israel's influence on the world. That word is not a new word in the recorded history of targeted prejudice. That word is one of the oldest tropes. In 1940, Shapiro continued. The 1940s regime propaganda film used the exact phrase in German. The English translation is, the Jewish people have hypnotized the world. He paused. Same word, Congresswoman. The word the 1940s propaganda ministry chose in 1940 to teach the German people that the Jewish people were a hidden, manipulative, evil force. The word the ministry chose 3 years before the darkest camps opened. You used that same word, Congresswoman in English, on Twitter in May of 2012. A few seconds passed. Shapiro picked up the iPad. He tapped a different screen. He held it up. Now 7 years later, February 10, 2019, you posted another tweet. Quote, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. End quote. He set the iPad down. In American slang, Shapiro said, the word Benjamins refers to $100 bills. The slang comes from Benjamin Franklin. Mr. Franklin was not Jewish. He never was. So the word Benjamins by itself refers to dollar bills generally. But the phrase all about the Benjamins, used in connection with Israel and the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, has been a prejudiced dog whistle in American political discourse for at least 15 years before you tweeted it. Conservative writers had documented the phrase. Liberal writers had documented the phrase. The Anti-Defamation League had documented the phrase. Everyone in the Jewish community knew the phrase, which is why 24 hours after you tweeted, the Speaker of the House issued a public statement condemning your tweet. Speaker Pelosi, a Democrat from your own party, the first time in modern American history that a Speaker of the House had to publicly condemn targeted prejudice by a member of her own party, +4. The hearing room was silent. Shapiro could hear the fluorescent lights humming above the bench. Omar lifted her chin. Her voice was the practiced voice she used on cable news. Mr. Shapiro, she said. When I posted the 2012 tweet, I was a young Somali-American refugee. I had not yet been exposed to the full history of European prejudice. I have stated publicly multiple times that I am being educated by Jewish allies and colleagues about the painful history of prejudice tropes. I have apologized for the language I used in 2019. I am still learning. The Jewish community has been very patient with me. I am very grateful for that patience. She finished. She sat back. The press section moved. The Atlantic correspondent in the third row wrote in his notebook. He wrote 5 words. Still being educated 12 years. Shapiro waited until she was done. Then he spoke. Congresswoman, I want to address that defense carefully. It is the most common defense in cases of prejudiced speech by public officials, and it has a name. The name in plain English is the perpetual student defense. It says, I am still learning. Please be patient. I have not finished my education yet. I want to ask you a basic question. You are 42 years old. You graduated from North Dakota State University in 2011. You have served in the Minnesota State House. You have served in the United States House of Representatives for 7 years. You have sat on the Foreign Affairs Committee. You have been the subject of 2 separate Speaker-issued condemnations of targeted prejudice in 2019 and in 2023. By your own count, you have apologized for prejudice statements at least 6 times. At what point, Congresswoman? At what age? In what year after? How many apologies does the I am still learning defense expire? +4 silence in the room, Shapiro continued. Because the country has been listening. Congresswoman, the Jewish community has been listening for 12 years. The Jewish community is not asking you to be perfect. The Jewish community is asking you to demonstrate at year 12 that you have in fact learned. The way an adult demonstrates learning is by stopping the behavior. You have not stopped the behavior. You repeated the trope in 2019. You used the phrase pro-atrocity Jewish students in 2024. The behavior, Congresswoman, has been continuous. He let that sit. At year 12, Congresswoman, I am still learning is no longer a defense. It is in plain English a confession. Either you have learned and you are repeating the trope deliberately, or you have not learned after 12 years. In which case you are the only person in modern American politics who has been educated by allies for a decade and remained at the end of it exactly as ignorant as when you started. He let that sit. There is no third option, Congresswoman, there rarely is. He picked up the iPad, set it down again. And Congresswoman, I want every American watching this hearing to remember one specific number. 6. By your own public count, you have apologized for prejudice statements at least 6 times. The country has tracked them. The Anti-Defamation League has tracked them. Your own party has tracked them. 6 apologies, Congresswoman, each one followed by another statement. Each new statement followed by another apology. The pattern in plain English is not the pattern of a person who is learning. The pattern is the pattern of a person who has discovered something. That apologize, repeat, is a sustainable political strategy. As long as your party protects your seat on the Foreign Affairs Committee, the Jewish community, Congresswoman, has been listening to the apologies for 12 years. The Jewish community is not asking you for another apology. The Jewish community is asking the Democratic Party quietly, in synagogue parking lots, after services, in Jewish Community Center board meetings, at Jewish Federation dinners. The Jewish community is asking, why does this member of Congress still have her seat on Foreign Affairs? That is the question the country today is going to hear asked out loud. +4 inches the wings, Imani Hassan closed her phone screen. She did not put the phone down. She held its screen down. The way people hold phones when they realize the message discipline they had been hired to enforce has a structural flaw they had never been told about. Hit that like button if you have ever in your life heard a Jewish commentator tell a sitting congresswoman on a federal microphone that I'm still learning is no longer a defense at year 12. Comment, still learning. If this is the first time you have heard the perpetual student defense called what it is, subscribe, because the next bomb is about a tweet from June 2021 about 5 entities. The first entity was the United States. The 5th entity was the extremist faction. Shapiro tapped the iPad. New screen. Congresswoman, June 10, 2021, Shapiro said. 2:38 inches the afternoon Eastern Time. You posted on your verified Twitter account the following statement. He read, his voice was flat. Quote, We have seen unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., the militant faction, Israel, Afghanistan, and the extremist faction. I asked Secretary Blinken where people are supposed to go for justice." End quote. He set the iPad down. "5 entities, Congresswoman," he said. "The United States, the militant faction, Israel, Afghanistan, the extremist faction. You equated them in one tweet as entities that have all committed, quote, unthinkable atrocities," end quote. He paused. In plain English, "Congresswoman, I want every American watching this hearing to hear this slowly. You put the United States Marine Corps in the same moral category as the militant faction. You put the Israeli Defense Forces in the same moral category as the extremist faction. You put the country that gave you refuge, the country that gave you citizenship, the country that gave you a college education, the country that gave you a seat in its Congress. You put that country in the same moral category as the extremist organization. The extremist organization that has taken the lives of approximately 2,600 American troops in Afghanistan since 2001. +4, the chamber went quiet. The day you posted that tweet, 12 House Democrats publicly condemned you. They issued a joint statement led by Representative Brad Schneider of Illinois. The statement said, quote, "False equivalencies give cover to extremist groups. We urge Congresswoman Omar to clarify her words, placing the U.S. and Israel in the same category as the militant faction and the extremist faction." End quote. 12 members of your own party publicly on the record in writing. Speaker Pelosi. Majority Leader Hoyer, Whip Clyburn, and Caucus Chair Jeffries issued a separate statement. The statement said you needed to clarify your remarks, which you did, sort of. The clarification said you had been, quote, misunderstood, end quote. You did not retract the tweet. You did not delete the tweet. You did not apologize for the equivalence. The tweet as of this morning is still on your verified account. Omar's voice came back. "Mr. Shapiro," she said, "the tweet was a question about the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction over war crimes. The 5 entities I named were entities that have all been the subject of investigations or proceedings related to alleged war crimes. The tweet was a procedural inquiry about international justice. It was not a moral equivalence between the United States military and the militant faction. The framing of my tweet as a moral equivalence is a bad faith reading. The conservative media has applied that reading to my statements for 8 years." Shapiro waited until she finished. Then he spoke. "+4, Congresswoman," he said. "I want to address the procedural inquiry defense briefly. You have in your life attended many memorial services for fallen American service members. Presumably, you have attended Memorial Day events in Minnesota's 5th Congressional District. Presumably, you have met Gold Star families. Presumably. I want you to imagine, Congresswoman, the experience of a Gold Star father, a man in Minnesota, a man who lost his son in Afghanistan in 2010 to an improvised explosive device from the extremist faction. The father reads your tweet on June 10, 2021. The tweet equates his son's attackers with his son. Both of them, by the wording of your tweet, committed unthinkable atrocities. What is the Gold Star father, Congresswoman, supposed to do with that tweet on Memorial Day at his son's grave?" He paused. "Is he supposed to read your clarification, the one that says he misunderstood you? Is he supposed to read your Twitter thread, the one you posted 2 days later, the one that never used the word apologize? Is he supposed to call your office? Is he supposed to write you a letter? In plain English, Congresswoman, there is no procedural defense in international law, in domestic law, in moral philosophy, in plain American common sense. There is no defense that puts the United States Marine who died defending his country in the same moral category as the extremist fighter who ended his life. Every American Congresswoman knows the difference. Every single American, including you, which is why 12 members of your own party publicly told you on the record in writing that you had crossed a line." He paused. "The line, Congresswoman, was the line between the country that buried its sons and the extremist organizations that took them. You crossed that line in one tweet. In 5 years, you have not deleted the tweet. The Gold Star fathers in Minnesota's 5th District noticed. He let that sit. +4. Now the question I want every American watching this hearing to think about tonight when they put their phone down when they go to sleep. How many Gold Star fathers in Minnesota's 5th District voted for you in 2024? Probably not many. Probably not many at all. Because the Gold Star Fathers, Congresswoman. They read the tweet. They read your clarification. They read the silence that followed. They drew their conclusions. And the Gold Star Fathers today are watching this hearing. Some of them, by the count of veterans organizations that track these things, are watching specifically. They have been waiting 5 years to hear someone on a federal microphone ask the question they have been asking at their sons' graves on Memorial Day. The question, Congresswoman, I will ask it for them. The question is this: in what universe, in what court, in what philosophical framework, in what version of the English language, in what country is my son the same as the extremist faction? You owe them an answer, Congresswoman, not a clarification, an answer. +2, the hearing room was silent. Comment 5 entities. If you have ever in your life heard a Jewish commentator ask a sitting Congresswoman to answer a Gold Star Father's question on a federal microphone, subscribe because the next bomb is about a video, 47 seconds long, recorded by the Congresswoman herself at Columbia University, about Jewish college freshmen. Shapiro tapped the iPad. He held it up. The cameras zoomed in. The screen showed a video player. He tapped play. The audio came through the chamber speakers. The hearing room listened. It was Omar's own voice, her own face, standing at the Columbia encampment, April 25, 2024. She was speaking into a megaphone. The Jewish students in the background were not part of the encampment. 47 seconds. Her voice through the chamber. Speakers repeated the phrase, "Pro-atrocity Jewish students. Pro-atrocity Jewish students." The video stopped. The hearing room was silent. Shapiro set the iPad down on the witness table. Congresswoman, April 25, 2024. You used the phrase, pro-atrocity Jewish students in a video. You posted that video to your own official Instagram account with a caption that endorsed the encampment's demands. He paused. In the 72 hours after you posted that video, the Anti-Defamation League documented something. Reported targeted incidents against Jewish students on American college campuses jumped 312% week over week. 312%, Congresswoman. The week after your video was the single worst week of campus-targeted prejudice since the Anti-Defamation League began keeping records in 1979. He paused. In plain English, Congresswoman, that means more hateful symbols painted on more dormitory doors in 7 days in the United States of America than in any 7-day period since Jimmy Carter was president. More chance of go back to the darkest camps, shouted at more. 1 8-year-old Jewish freshman in libraries, in dining halls, in dorm rooms, than in any 7-day period in 45 years. More mezuzahs taken down in dorm rooms across America than in any 7-day period since records began. He let that sit. You did not, Congresswoman, paint the symbols. The vandals did. You did not, Congresswoman, shout the chants. The students who blocked Jewish students from entering their own dormitories did. You did, Congresswoman, provide the language, the framing, the cover, the phrase pro-atrocity used by a sitting United States representative about American Jewish college freshmen. 1 8-year-olds on American university campuses. After April 25, 2024, pro-atrocity was no longer a fringe slogan. After your video, pro-atrocity became congressional language from a sitting member of the United States Congress. +4, Omar shifted in her chair. Mr. Shapiro, she said, the video you played presents an incomplete view of my full statement. The full context, which I have explained multiple times, was different. I distinguished between anti-atrocity students, who included Jewish students, and pro-atrocity students, who included some Jewish students. The phrase, pro-atrocity Jewish students, was a phrase referring to a specific subset of students who had taken a specific political position on Israel's military operations in Gaza. The phrase was not and is not a characterization of all Jewish students. The clipping you presented removes that distinction. Shapiro tapped the iPad. The video resumed. He played a longer segment this time, 64 seconds, the full context. The phrase still emerged. Pro-atrocity Jewish students, 3 times in the longer recording. The qualifier Omar had described the careful distinction was not in the recording, not in the way she had described it. He stopped the video. Congresswoman, he said, the video, as I just played it, contains the longer context you referenced. The country has just heard the longer context. The phrase, pro-atrocity Jewish students, appears in the recording 3 times. The qualifier you describe the distinction between anti-atrocity and pro-atrocity Jewish students is not articulated as you described it. In plain English, Congresswoman, the explanation you offered to the committee just now about the longer context of the video is not what is in the longer context of the video. The country has heard both. The country can decide which it believes. He paused. Now, whatever the linguistic argument about your phrasing, there is a different question. The question is, what you knew the phrase would do to one 8-year-old Jewish freshman on American university campuses in April of 2024, at a moment when targeted prejudice on those campuses was already at a 40-year high. You were not, Congresswoman, a private citizen tweeting from your kitchen. You are a sitting member of the United States Congress with a verified Instagram account with 1.7 million followers with direct access to the news media. You knew in plain English, you knew that anything you said about Jewish students at Columbia, any phrase would be amplified across the country within hours. That is your job. That is the job you have. The job is built on the platform you have. He paused. And the question, Congresswoman, the question every Jewish parent of a college student is asking tonight in their kitchens with their phones in their hands. The question is this. When you use the phrase, pro-atrocity Jewish students, did you intend, did you anticipate, did you consider that the next morning in dorm rooms across the country, one 8-year-old Jewish freshman would wake up and discover hateful symbols on their doors? You did not cause those symbols. The vandals did. But you provided the language. You provided the framing. You provided for the people who painted the symbols, the cover. The country today would like to know if you have, in the 18 months since April 25, 2024, apologized to even one of those 8-year-old freshmen. The hearing room was silent. Omar did not respond. Comment pro-atrocity. If you have ever in your life heard a sitting congresswoman watch herself on her own video on a federal microphone and refuse to apologize to the 8-year-old American Jewish freshman whose dorm rooms were vandalized after she said the phrase, subscribe, because the next bomb is the one America has been waiting for since October 7, 2023. 11 days, 1 vote, 9 months old. Plus 4. Shapiro tapped the iPad. The screen displayed a photograph. The cameras zoomed in. The photograph had been taken on October 7, 2023, at a place called Kibbutz near Oz in southern Israel. The photograph had been on the front page of every newspaper in the world. In the center of the photograph was a woman. Her name was Shiri Bibas. She was 32 years old. Her hair was dark, pulled back from her face. Her face was frozen in terror. In her left arm she held her 4-year-old son. His name was Ariel. He had red hair. Under her right arm, pressed against her chest, was a baby. The baby had the same red hair as his brother. His name was Kiefer. He was 9 months old. Around them in the photograph were militant gunmen. Shapiro let the photograph sit on the screen. He looked at Omar across the witness table. His voice was quiet. Congresswoman, he said, October 7, 2023. You have seen this photograph. Every American has seen this photograph. The woman is Shiri Bibas. The boy in her left arm is Ariel. He is 4 years old. The baby she is shielding under her right arm is Kafir. He is 9 months old. He paused. Kafir Bibas was the youngest hostage taken on October 7th. 9 months old. He was a baby. He let that sit. The militant faction ended the lives of all 3 of them. Their bodies were returned to Israel in February of this year. The funerals broke the world. He paused. The funeral footage was watched by approximately 140 million people worldwide. Within 72 hours of the bodies being returned, the image of 2 small caskets, one for a 4-year-old, one for a baby, carried by Israeli military pallbearers at Kibbutz near Oz. That image was the single most shared funeral image on the global internet since the funeral of John F. Kennedy in 1963. He paused. Both of the Bibas children, Congresswoman, Ariel, age 4, Kufr, age 9 months. Both of them had red hair, the kind of red hair that runs in some Jewish families. The 2 small red-headed boys became, in the months between October 7, 2023, and the funeral in February of 2025, the unofficial public faces of the October 7th hostage crisis. Their photographs were on freeway billboards in Los Angeles, on bus shelters in Manhattan, on synagogue bulletin boards in Boca Raton, on the homepage of every Jewish Federation website in the United States. For 16 straight months, the Jewish community in America, Congresswoman, prayed for those two red-headed boys. For 16 months. The Jewish community in America buried those two red-headed boys in absentia in February of this year. When their bodies came home in caskets, too small for their parents to look at, +4, he set the iPad down. Now, Congresswoman, October 18, 2023, 11 days after this photograph was taken. 11 days after the militant faction had harmed infants, assaulted women, destroyed families alive in their homes. 11 days after Kfir Bibas was kidnapped from his crib, the United States House of Representatives voted on a resolution, House Resolution 771. The resolution did one thing. It condemned the militant faction. The resolution title was Standing with Israel, as it defends itself against the barbaric war launched by the militant faction and other extremists. The resolution passed 412 to 10. He paused. You voted no, Congresswoman. 11 days after Kfir Bibas was kidnapped from his crib, you voted no on a resolution that did one thing: condemn the militant faction. He picked up the iPad, tapped a different screen. The vote tally appeared. Omar's name was visible. Voting no. You were one of 10 members of the United States House of Representatives who voted no on that resolution. 8 of the 10 were members of what is publicly called the Squad. He paused. Congresswoman, I want every American watching this hearing tonight to understand what your no vote on October 18, 2023 meant in plain English. It meant, Congresswoman, that you could not 11 days after the worst mass tragedy since the darkest tragedy of the 20th century, with 1,200 individuals deceased, with 240 hostages in Gaza, with Kfir Bibas, presumed alive, somewhere in a tunnel. You could not bring yourself to vote yes on a resolution that did one thing: condemn the militant faction. It was in plain English the easiest political vote any sitting member of Congress would face in 2023. The bill required no funding. The bill committed no troops. The bill set no policy. The bill said one thing: the militant faction just did this. We condemn the militant faction. You voted no. +4, Omar lifted her chin. Her voice came back a little faster this time. Mr. Shapiro, she said, my vote on October 18th was a vote against an unbalanced resolution. The resolution did not acknowledge the full humanitarian situation in Gaza. The resolution made no reference to civilian casualties on the Palestinian side. The resolution made no reference to the ongoing humanitarian crisis. By the time of that vote, several hundred Palestinian civilians had already perished in Israeli airstrikes. My vote was a vote for proportionality, for a resolution that addressed all civilian losses on all sides, including those who would pass away in the days and weeks that followed. She finished. The progressive press section moved. Shapiro waited. Congresswoman, he said, I want to address the proportionality defense briefly. The resolution you voted against did not preclude future humanitarian aid. It did not preclude future ceasefire resolutions. It did not preclude future humanitarian resolutions for Palestinian civilians. Between October 18, 2023 and December 31, 2023, the House of Representatives passed 3 separate humanitarian aid resolutions that included Palestinian civilians. You voted yes on 2 of those 3. You voted present on the 3rd. He paused. So the proportionality defense in plain English does not work, because the House did in fact address proportionality in separate resolutions which you supported. The October 18th resolution was specifically and only about the October 7th attack. The October 18th resolution was a moral statement. The moral statement was, we condemn what the militant faction did on October 7th. You voted no on the moral statement, Congresswoman. You did not vote no on the proportionality. You voted no on the moral statement that the militant faction had done something condemnable on October 7th. He let that sit. In plain English, there is no version of the English language in any dictionary, in any school of moral philosophy, In any framework of international human rights, where the response to the militant faction taking the lives of 1,200 civilians is, I would not condemn this until you also condemn Israel for retaliating. That is not proportionality, Congresswoman. That is moral equivalence between the attacker and the family that buried him. That is what your June 2021 tweet said. That is what your October 18, 2023 vote said. The pattern, Congresswoman, across 2.5 years is the same pattern. He paused. And 8 days later, Congresswoman, October 26, 2023, the House voted again on a $14.5 billion emergency aid package for Israel to pay for the country as defense. At the moment, its civilians had just been devastated. The bill passed 311 to 14. You were one of the 14 no votes. In plain English, Congresswoman, the country watching this hearing has now heard 2 votes. October 18th. No on the resolution that condemned the militant faction. October 26th. No on the emergency aid for the country whose civilians had been devastated. 2 votes, 8 days apart. 3 weeks after the worst mass tragedy since the darkest tragedy of the 20th century. Both no. And during the 8 days between those 2 votes, Congresswoman Kfir Bibas was still alive in a tunnel in Gaza somewhere, 9 months old. +4. The hearing room was very quiet now. This was the moment. Omar's hands had been gesturing throughout the past 43 minutes, the way her hands always gestured when she spoke on cable news. Her hands had produced 8 years of viral hand gesture clips. Her hands stopped moving. Both palms, flat on the desk in front of her, pressed down, knuckles white. She did not lift her hands. The cameras zoomed in. 11 seconds passed. In 11 seconds on national television in front of 5.4 million live viewers, the hands that had built a cable news brand for 8 years stopped working. She did not lift them. She did not speak. She did not gesture. The C-SPAN producer in the truck zoomed in tighter. 12 million American screens watched 2 hands pressed flat on a desk. Knuckles. White motion stopped, the brand visibly broken. In the wings, Imani Hassan closed her phone screen. She did not put the phone down. She held its screen down. 12 seconds. Shapiro spoke. His voice was lower than it had been all morning. Congresswoman, yes or no, did you vote no on House Resolution 771 on October 18, 2023? Omar took a breath. Yes, thank you. And yes or no, 11 days earlier on October 7th was Kfir Bibas, aged 9 months, kidnapped from his crib in kibbutz near Oz. A long silence. Yes, thank you, Congresswoman. He let that sit. The hearing room stayed quiet. That is the timeline, Congresswoman. 11 days from a 9-month-old American-Israeli baby being dragged out of his crib to a sitting member of the United States Congress, voting no on a resolution that condemned the people who dragged him out. In plain English, the country has heard the timeline read back in your own words with your own yeses. The country watched your hands stop moving. The country watched the brand break. He paused. There is nothing left for you to say, Congresswoman, about the 11 days, about Kfir Bibas, about the vote. The country has the timeline. The country has the photograph. The country has your no vote. The country has the recording of your hands stopping. The country, Congresswoman, every American watching tonight in their living room with their phone in their hand. The country has only one question left for you. Words have meaning, Congresswoman. Did you mean what you said? The hands stayed flat. Comment 11 days. If you have ever in your life heard a Jewish commentator walk a sitting Congresswoman through her own no vote on a resolution condemning the people who kidnapped a 9-month-old baby from his crib and watch her hands stop moving, share this with the Jewish American in your life and with the working-class American in your life, the actual one, not the imagined one, in a squad campaign ad. +4 Shapiro picked up the iPad. He held it up. The cameras zoomed in. Congresswoman, one final video, 47 seconds. A montage. The montage contains 6 clips from the past 12 years. All 6 are public statements you made in your own voice, in your own face, on your own verified social media accounts, or on the official floor of the United States House of Representatives. He tapped play. The video began 47 seconds. The chamber listened. Clip 1 2 mi 2 presece. Omar's voice, Israel has hypnotized the world. Clip 2, 2019. Omar's voice, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. Clip 3, 2021. Omar's voice, the unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., the militant faction Israel, Afghanistan, and the extremist faction. Clip 4, April 2024, Colombia. Omar's voice, pro-atrocity Jewish students. Clip 5, October 18, 2023, House floor. Omar's vote no. On the militant faction condemnation. Clip 6, October 26, 2023, House floor. Omar's vote no. On the $14.5 billion emergency Israel aid package, the video ended. The screen went black. Shapiro did not speak immediately. He let the silence sit on the witness table. The hearing room listened to the silence. Then he spoke quietly. Congresswoman, 47 seconds, 12 years, 6 clips. You said every word. You cast every vote. The country has on this hearing record for 43 minutes, heard every word, every vote, every clip read back to you in chronological order. He paused. The country today has only one question left for you, Congresswoman. Words have meaning. Did you mean what you said? +4. The hearing room was silent. Omar's hands stayed flat on the desk. They did not move. She looked at her communications director. Imani Hassan was no longer looking at her. She looked at the iPad in Shapiro's hand. The black screen reflected her own face. The seconds passed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The framing of this question is fundamentally, she began. Congresswoman, yes or no words have meaning. Did you mean what you said? 13 seconds, 14. Omar said nothing. Shapiro nodded once. He set the iPad down on the witness table, screen up black. He turned it off entirely. The screen went dark. Mr. Chairman, I yield the remainder of my time. The video evidence is entered into the record. The country can watch it tonight. The chairman gave a 30-minute recess. Omar stood. Her hands came off the desk. They did not gesture. They hung at her sides. She gathered her papers slowly. She did not look at Imani Hassan. She did not look at Shapiro. She walked toward the side door. At the door she turned. The cameras followed her. Shapiro was still seated. The iPad was on the witness table. Dark. He was not looking at her. He was looking at the iPad. Congresswoman. She paused. The world is watching tonight, Congresswoman. The Jewish community is watching tonight. The Israeli embassy is watching tonight. The 8-year-old freshman at Columbia, who took her mezuzah down, is watching tonight. The Gold Star father in Minnesota's 5th Congressional District is watching tonight. The parents of Kafir and Ariel Bibas, who buried both of their sons in February, are watching tonight. He paused. The world is not hypnotized, Congresswoman. The world is just reading. She did not respond. She walked out. The door closed behind her with the kind of sound a heavy door makes when nobody on either side wants to slam it. But nobody wants to soften it either. +4. The aftermath came fast. By 1138 that morning, 4 hashtags had taken the top 4 trending positions on every American platform. Hashtag words have meaning, hashtag not hypnotized, hashtag 11 days, hashtag Kafir Bibas. The 4-7-second montage that Shapiro had played in the chamber was reposted to every major social media platform within 20 minutes of the recess. By sundown, the montage had passed 83 million views. The clip of Omar's hands, stopping 12 seconds, no audio, a single producer zoom, passed 107 million views. Omar's communications director released a statement at 1:14 that afternoon. 12 sentences. The statement used the word manufactured 4 times. It used the word theater 3 times. It used the phrase Republican circus twice. It did not mention the Benjamins tweet. It did not mention the Columbia video. It did not mention the no vote on October 18, 2023. It did not mention Kafir Bibas. That statement, in a way, was the entire scandal in 12 sentences. Because the woman who had built her career on the brand of speaking truth to power had just spent 28 minutes of live television refusing to answer one simple question. Did you mean what you said? And by sundown, her communications director had not put the question, the answer, or the absence of an answer into the public statement. This is the Squad. In a single Wednesday morning, the Squad. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar Hashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, plus the rotating cast of allied members who have come and gone since 2018. The Squad was sold to the American working class as the new face of the Democratic Party, the progressive future, the young, diverse leadership that would represent the conscience of the party. 8 years later, the conscience of the party has become the documented record of targeted prejudice in the party. The medieval hypnotized trope from 2012, the AIPAC Benjamin's dog whistle from 2019, the June 2021 tweet that put the United States Marine Corps in the same moral category as the extremist faction. The extremist faction that ended the lives of 2,600 American troops. The April 2024 Columbia video that gave campus vandals the phrase they spray-painted on Jewish dormitory doors that night. The October 18, 2023 vote, 11 days after Kfir Bibas was kidnapped from his crib, against a resolution that did one thing: condemn the militant faction. +4. The Squad did not just betray the working class. The Squad, in the case of Representative Omar, betrayed the 7 million American Jewish people whose grandparents survived camps in Europe to come to the only country in the world where their grandchildren could become whatever they wanted to become. The Squad betrayed the Gold Star fathers in Minnesota's 5th Congressional District, whose sons passed away fighting the extremist faction. The same extremist faction Representative Omar equated with the United States in a single tweet. The Squad betrayed the 8-year-old Jewish freshman at Columbia who took her mezuzah down on April 26, 2024, the morning after the video, who has not put it back up in the 18 months since. The Squad betrayed the parents of Kfir Bibas, whose son was 9 months old when the militant faction took his life. And the Democratic Party, watching all of this for 8 straight years, said nothing. Speaker Pelosi said nothing in 2019 beyond the forced statement that lasted 24 hours and was followed by no consequences. Speaker Jeffries said nothing in 2023 after the no vote on the militant faction condemnation. Speaker Jeffries said nothing in April 2024 after the Columbia video. Speaker Jeffries voted in person in 2024 to reinstate Representative Omar to the Foreign Affairs Committee. Every Democratic leader in Washington, when given the choice between Representative Omar and 7 million American Jewish people, chose Representative Omar, chose the brand, chose the viral clips, chose the seat on Foreign Affairs. And the 7 million American Jewish people, the grandchildren of survivors, the 8-year-old freshman at Columbia, the parents in Boca Raton, the synagogue in Pittsburgh that lost 11 worshippers in 2018 and now sits behind permanent armed security. The Gold Star fathers in Minnesota whose sons were acquainted with the extremist faction that ended their lives. The parents of Kfir Bibas who buried their 9-month-old son. They paid the bill. They paid the bill in the medieval trope being repeated by a sitting member of Congress. They paid the bill in a tweet that put their fallen sons in the same category as the people who ended their lives. They paid the bill in a pro-atrocity phrase used about their own children. They paid the bill in a no vote 11 days after the worst mass tragedy since the darkest tragedy of the 20th century, on a resolution that did one thing: condemn the attackers of 9-month-old Kfir Bibas. +4. The Congresswoman from Minneapolis walked out of the Dirksen building at 1214. Her hands had come off the desk by then. They hung at her sides. She did not gesture. The black SUV at the curb did not know where to take her. Neither did she. The driver, after 23 minutes of circling the Capitol, finally asked Congresswoman where to. She did not answer because there was no answer. There is no road in the United States of America today that takes a sitting member of Congress home from a hearing where her own video of her own voice saying the phrase pro-atrocity Jewish students has just been played back to her on a federal microphone in front of 5.4 million Americans. In hearing room 419 of the Dirksen Senate office building on a Wednesday morning, the country played 6 clips: the Congresswoman from Minneapolis and the Squad, and the Democratic Party that protected her for 8 straight years could not on a federal microphone answer yes or no to whether she meant what she said in any of the 6 clips. If you made it this far, you just heard the morning, a Jewish commentator from Burbank, California, sat across from the most followed Muslim congresswoman in American history and read her own 12 years of public statements about Jewish people, about Israel, about American military veterans, about the 7 million American Jewish people whose grandparents came to this country to escape exactly the medieval tropes she had been repeating since 2012. He played the clips, 47 seconds, 6 clips, 12 years, all in her own voice, all in her own face, all from her own verified accounts, all from her own no votes. She refused to answer whether she meant what she said. She refused to apologize to the 8-year-old freshman at Columbia who took her mezuzah down the morning after the video. She refused to acknowledge the Gold Star fathers in Minnesota's 5th Congressional District, whose sons were acquainted with the extremist faction that ended their lives. She refused to say the names Ariel Kafer Shiri of the Bibas family, whose funerals broke the world 4 months earlier. She refused on a federal microphone in front of 5.4 million Americans with the cameras on. +4, smash that like button if you believe a recording of a congresswoman's own voice still beats a press release. Subscribe if you want to see what happens to the rest of the squad in the months ahead. Comment words have meaning. If you think the question, "Did you mean what you said?" just became the most devastating 5 words in American political television, share this with the Jewish American in your life. Share this with the Gold Star father in your life. Share this with the parent of the college freshman in your life. And with every American who watched a sitting member of Congress on national television refuse to answer for her own 12 years of public statements about 7 million of her fellow citizens. Tonight, Congresswoman, when you take that pin out of your hijab in front of your bathroom mirror, the country wants you to know it watched the 6 clips. The country wants you to know it heard the Pelosi condemnation from 2019. The country wants you to know it watched the Bibas family funeral footage from February of this year. The country wants you to know it watched your hands stop moving for 12 seconds. The country wants you to know, Congresswoman, that the world is watching. And the world tonight is not hypnotized. The world tonight is just reading. Jasi.